Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today we're going to take a calm, analytical look at an important question many followers of the Iraqi dinar are asking right now. Are we waiting on a pre-scheduled exchange rate adjustment tied to the completion of Iraq's government formation? Or are broader geopolitical tensions, particularly between the United States and Iran, influencing the timing of any monetary policy shift? And perhaps most importantly, is anyone truly in a position to confidently predict what happens next? Let's start by grounding this discussion in reality. Monetary policy decisions in Iraq are primarily overseen by the Central Bank of Iraq, operating under the broader framework of Iraq's political and economic institutions. The Iraqi dinar's exchange rate is not adjusted casually, nor is it changed based on speculation circulating in online communities. Rate decisions are typically based on macroeconomic indicators, fiscal stability, foreign reserves, inflation management, and broader financial reform strategies. There is often talk that bankers drafted this whole plan, suggesting that a coordinated framework for monetary reform has already been structured behind the scenes. While it is true that monetary reform plans are designed by financial experts, central bank officials, and policy advisors, the execution of those plans depends heavily on political stability, institutional coordination, and external economic conditions. Plans can exist on paper, but implementation is always subject to timing, risk assessment, and real-world constraints. One key factor that continues to shape expectations is the formation and stability of Iraq's government. When a government is incomplete or operating in a transitional phase, major economic reforms are often delayed. Investors, international institutions, and financial partners look for continuity and predictability. A fully functioning government provides the policy, backing, and legislative support needed for significant economic adjustments. So it's reasonable to consider whether any exchange rate reform would be aligned with a period of political stability rather than uncertainty. However, the idea of a scheduled rate change date that must magically align with government formation is likely an oversimplification. Central banks do not typically lock themselves into rigid public timelines for exchange rate shifts, especially in emerging markets. Instead, they monitor economic indicators closely and adjust policy when conditions are considered optimal or necessary. Now let's address the second part of the question. Are geopolitical tensions, particularly between the United States and Iran, playing a role in potential delays? Iraq's geographic and political position makes it highly sensitive to regional dynamics. The country maintains economic, political, and security relationships with both the United States and Iran. Any escalation in tensions between those two nations can create uncertainty within Iraq's financial system. Sanctions regimes, energy trade arrangements, cross-border banking flows, and regional security risks all influence investor confidence and currency stability. For example, if there are concerns about sanctions enforcement, cross-border dollar flows, or compliance with international banking standards, the Central Bank of Iraq may choose to prioritize stability over reform. In such environments, maintaining exchange rate predictability can become more important than implementing ambitious adjustments. It's also important to recognize the role of the US dollar in Iraq's financial system. Iraq's oil revenues are predominantly dollar-denominated. The management of dollar liquidity inside Iraq is crucial for maintaining price stability and public confidence. Any disruption in dollar supply chains, whether due to compliance reviews, anti-money laundering enforcement, or geopolitical strain, can influence short-term monetary policy decisions. But here's the critical point: correlation does not automatically mean causation. Just because geopolitical tension exists does not mean it is directly delaying a specific currency action. Central banks often take a conservative approach during uncertain times, but they rarely attribute policy decisions publicly to political disputes. What makes this situation particularly challenging is that monetary reform is not a single event, it's a process. Iraq has been engaged in gradual financial restructuring for years. This includes strengthening foreign currency reserves, modernizing banking systems, improving digital payment infrastructure, enhancing anti-corruption measures, and working with international institutions on financial transparency. All of these reforms matter far more to long-term currency strength than speculation about sudden exchange rate adjustments. A stronger banking sector, stable fiscal policy, controlled inflation, and diversified economic growth provide the foundation for currency resilience. Without these elements, any abrupt rate shift could create instability rather than progress. In the short term, what does this mean for Iraqi Dinar followers? It means volatility is possible, but dramatic overnight transformations are unlikely without clear structural support. Currency markets, especially in managed exchange rate systems, move carefully. Policymakers typically avoid sudden shocks unless there is a compelling economic necessity. It also means patience is essential. As difficult as it may be, emotional reactions to rumors, social media commentary, or unverified inside information can lead to unrealistic expectations. Responsible financial analysis requires acknowledging uncertainty. The truth is, nobody outside official institutions knows the precise timing of any policy shift. In the medium term, the key variables to monitor include government stability, oil revenue performance, foreign exchange reserve levels, inflation trends, and compliance with international financial standards. If Iraq continues to demonstrate fiscal discipline, maintains strong oil exports, and strengthens banking transparency, those factors build credibility over time. Long-term, the trajectory of the Iraqi dinar will depend on structural transformation. Iraq remains heavily reliant on oil. Diversification into agriculture, manufacturing, logistics, and private sector development will determine sustainable economic growth. A diversified economy reduces vulnerability to oil price swings and enhances currency stability. Another long-term factor is demographic pressure. Iraq has a young and growing population. Job creation, infrastructure investment, and private sector expansion are crucial for economic resilience. A currency reflects the productive capacity and stability of its economy. Strength in these areas supports gradual appreciation potential over many years, not sudden dramatic resets. We also have to consider inflation management. When a country adjusts its exchange rate, it must evaluate the inflationary consequences. A stronger currency can reduce import costs, but if not managed properly, it can also disrupt export competitiveness. Policymakers weigh these trade-offs carefully. So where does this leave us? It leaves us in a waiting phase, but not an uninformed one, observing developments between the United States and Iran, monitoring Iraq's government formation progress, and tracking central bank communications are all valid parts of responsible analysis. But it also requires acknowledging that central banking is complex and often deliberately opaque to prevent market manipulation. There is no confirmed public evidence of a fixed scheduled exchange rate date tied to a political milestone. There is no verified statement that geopolitical tensions are singularly blocking reform. What we have instead are multiple moving pieces interacting within a delicate economic environment. For Iraqi Dinar followers, the responsible approach is to focus on fundamentals rather than speculation. Watch reserve data, monitor oil production reports, follow budget execution updates, pay attention to international partnership agreements. These indicators provide more reliable signals than rumor cycles. In the short term, stability is often the priority. In uncertain geopolitical climates, central banks tend to preserve liquidity, defend reserves, and avoid dramatic policy shifts. That doesn't mean reform is off the table. It simply means timing must align with economic readiness, not emotional anticipation. In the long term, Iraq's potential is significant. The country has vast natural resources, strategic geographic positioning, and a young labor force. If governance reforms continue and institutional capacity strengthens, the dinar's trajectory could gradually reflect that progress. But gradual is the key word. We have to be patient. We have to remove emotion from the equation. Financial markets do not reward impatience. They respond to discipline, data, and structural reform. And at this moment, it is fair to say that nobody outside the official decision-making bodies can definitively state what will happen next or exactly when it will happen. What we can say is this: Iraq's economic future will be shaped by policy consistency, regional stability, fiscal responsibility, and continued reform of its banking sector. Whether current geopolitical developments create temporary delays or simply reinforce a cautious approach, the outcome will ultimately depend on fundamentals. As always, we will continue to monitor developments carefully and provide you with balanced, fact-based analysis without hype or unrealistic promises. If you found this update helpful and want to stay informed with responsible and factual Iraqi dinar news, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Remember, this content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Always conduct your own research and consult with a qualified financial professional before making any investment decisions.